Organizations today are making big bets on generative AI. Nearly 80% of business and IT leaders expect Gen AI to drive significant transformation in their industries in the next 3 years. Now, in a world where some forecasts suggest dramatic advances like artificial general intelligence may be possible by the end of this decade, or a twin digital, attending meetings on your behalf within 5 years, the possibilities for Gen AI seem limited only by one's imagination. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Analytics Inside, where we unpack the most fascinating shifts in the enterprise world. And I am your host, Priya Dialani. For years, digital transformation has been about moving from analog to digital, from manual to automated, and from siloed to connected. But generative AI has added a whole new layer, one that impacts not just the technology enterprises adopt, but how they adopt it, how employees adapt to change, and how productivity is redefined. So let's welcome Ankur Khare, digital adoption expert with SAP America today on our podcast to help us understand more about generative AI and what the future looks like for large scale enterprises. Hi Ankur, how are you doing?
Hi, Priya. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. And, of course, we are going to talk a lot about generative AI, which is, I think, now has shifted from a mere buzzword,
Mm-hmm.
probably a must-have technology, I believe. But of course, we'll be hearing more insights from you. But before we get into our deeper conversation, of course, all of our listeners have heard or know about SAP, but we would still like to know more about SAP and its specialization or something that probably our listeners don't know much about the company.
Sure. Thank you for having me. First of all, happy to be here. I'm excited to be here actually and talk about the biggest shift of the century, rather of the decade we talk about in the enterprise technology space, that is generative AI, and how generative AI is not just speeding up the digital transformation, but also changing the way people, employees are actually engaged with it. I work for SAP America's Incorporation. So SAP is basically a global leader in enterprise software solutions. SAP's mission is to help the world run better and improve people's life by enabling organizations of all size and all the across the industries and to operate more efficiently and give the better output which can improve the society as a whole. Our specialization is basically lies around the integrated ERP system. So we talk about integrating all the system across the organization and become and making it one enterprise wide system. We talk about cloud transformation and enterprise intelligence that connects every part of the business, be it finance and supply chain or HR or customer experiences. And increasingly now, we are talking about AI, analytics, and automation. These are the heart of our solutions now. These things actually empowering enterprises not to only just run operations, but also adopt new technologies faster and get the kind of business impact they are trying to achieve more quicker and have more impact over the kind of return of investment they are looking for. So this is a small brief about what SAP does as a whole. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful overview, Ankur. And of course, I'm very glad to know that SAP is at the forefront or a global leader in enterprise software solutions. And it's after listening to you, you can totally understand the kind of impact SAP is driving. And with that context set, let's dive a little deeper into your roles and contributions within the company. Your competencies include crafting comprehensive business development strategies and implementing go-to-market initiatives with a strong emphasis on meeting and exceeding KPIs. You have also been,
Mhm.
awarded with a lot of many recognitions in the last couple of years. You have been a bronze winner at the Globee Awards for Technology in June 2024. So, of course, we would like to know more about you, Ankur. How has your journey been
Sure.
played, and what exactly is your role at SAP?
My journey has been interesting. Studied, born and brought up in India, studied in India, started working in India, I think a couple of decades back. Then moved to Africa, lived in Africa, worked there, had a great exposure, and then moved to US in 8 years back, around 2017. Has been here, have been working with SAP since 2018. I I'm a digital adoption expert, so basically I'm a senior advisor, and I work more towards the digital transformation and the adoption side of the business. So my focus purely to ensure the customer, they just don't buy technology, but they actually adopt it and realize its full value. If you see, a large part of my work is basically helping the customers or the enterprises that how they're going to navigate around the human side of the digital transformation. When I'm talking about the human side of the digital transformation, I talk about change management. I talk about upskilling and training the human capital of the enterprises. I talk about the enablement. I talk about how quickly and how effectively they can adopt to a new technology. And to enforce all these things, the recent efforts are more towards driving AI enabled adoption, showing how the digital adoption tools and platforms and assistant can cut learning curves and personalize user experiences and boost productivities. So I would say my role is basically have two different parts. One is more strategic part where I work very closely with the leadership around the transformation and talk about how to strategize all these adoption strategies, which can have a very long-term impact. And at the same time, I do a lot of hands-on work with the team on field who are actually getting into the field and dirting their hand to understand the technology and also carrying that transformation across the organization. So I work strategically also, and I have a lot of work hands-on working with the different teams, identifying and figuring out what kind of changes has been required within the organization when they are going through a larger or a smaller transformation, and what kind of strategies, which are like short-term strategies, we can create to ensure that the enterprises are getting the kind of return of investment they are looking for. So when you talk about a bigger transformation, people talk a lot about the technical aspects of the transformation, and they leave out the human aspects of the transformation. My work is more centered towards the human transformation within a bigger transformation, which is technical, if that makes sense.
Definitely, it makes sense, Ankur, and thank you for, providing that inside look of your role and helping our listeners understand the kind of impact you're driving at SAP and also, contributing a larger to the industry as well. Let's dive a little deeper, into the Gen AI industry, I would say. Now, business perspectives on generative AI have shifted remarkably. Initial
Hmm.
fears of AI disrupting traditional roles have given way to broader understanding of its potential to complement and enhance our capabilities. Now, for
Hmm.
example, in healthcare, generative AI has proven its worth by enhancing the accuracy and efficiency of diagnosis. So, these
Hmm.
examples underscore Gen AI's role as a catalyst for substantial industry wide improvements. So, how do you see generative AI reshaping the way enterprises approach digital transformation compared to the previous waves of technology adoption?
A very interesting question, actually, because if you go back a couple of decades, or say when we started this century in 2001, the kind of wave you must have seen is around cloud transformation. People are going from on-premise legacy softwares to cloud, mobility, automation. So largely what we were doing, actually, we were trying to digitalize the existing processes. So we have a process which is based on a very legacy system, and we have been trying to digitalize it and make it modern so that it has more impact on the day-to-day life of an enterprise and also across the society. But now generative AI is pretty different. It's just not about efficiency. It's about reimagining how work itself gets done. Let me give you an example, actually. So instead of now the way employee used to spend hours navigating different systems and creating reports and getting the content drafted for different presentations, creating a workflow which is gonna impact the real-time work, generative AI is actually giving all these insights. So now a lot of work has been churned out to generative AI, which is giving employees more time to work on more insightful work and have better impact on the overall business. Now, I'll give you an example that how impactful is going to be in coming years. I was just reading through a report in the industry, a white paper which has happened. I think they have published it in 2024, so sometime last year, and there were reports that generative AI could add on to close to 2.6 trillion to 4.4 trillion annually into the global economy. And the biggest impact the generative AI will have on our day-to-day enterprise functions like customer services, sales, software engineering, the research and development. What is more powerful is that the adoption isn't limited to technical experts only now. Because when we talk about technology, we talk about technical experts, how they're adopting, how they're going to manage everything. But now when we talk about generative AI, it has been extended to everyday employees also. Like the kind of tools that we are creating through generative AI. It is to solve and help a journal day-to-day employee to have a better impact on their work. So it's an innovation which is happening across the enterprise and it is impacting the human work in a different way what we used to see in our legacy system.
Yeah, I think you have shared some really important perspectives, and it really highlights how generative AI is not just another tool, but a catalyst for rethinking, digital transformation at its very core. And
Yes.
I think unlike previous waves where, the focus was largely on automation or efficiency gains, we today with generative AI, I think now we are shifting that focus and perspective towards more adaptability and hyper personalization at scales as well. So I think this shift brings exciting opportunities as well as new challenges, different considerations as well. So my next question is somewhere, on an overall organizational level, I would say, because integrating generative AI, I think, requires more than just updating a tech stack. I think it demands a comprehensive modernization strategy. Because now I want to zoom into change management. Now, traditionally, change management has been about communication plans, a stakeholder buy-in, long training cycles. So, in simpler words, I think it was a very human-driven process. Addressing integration challenges, which are like, quality of data, your system compatibility, or even cultural resistance, it requires a comprehensive approach. So, I think in sort of any technology that you adopt, change management has always been a very complex challenge. How is the rise of AI changing the way organizations approach employee adoption, training, and cultural shifts?
Very good question. And it's I actually resonate a lot with what you're asking because this is my day-to-day work. Because what happened? Think about any big change happened. We always talk about technology, 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 but we don't talk about the human side of the transformation. And because of that, what happens that we can have a great technology being rolled into the new enterprise. We can spend hundreds and millions of dollars on that. But if you are not adopting or if you're facing challenges in terms of acceptance of the new technology from the human side, you have a failed transformation in your hand because you're not getting the kind of return of investment you're looking for. So change management becomes very, very important. Now, what happens traditionally, change management has been all about hey, how I'm going to train my people, what kind of upskills we can do, what kind of communication strategies we can create, what kind of governance model we can have. Oh, we need more stakeholders alignment to run these big transformation. So it was more about communication and governance and leadership and training. With AI, it is becoming more, I would rather say, hyper personalized actually and more adaptive. So I'll give you an example. Instead of creating a one size fit all training program, which we used to do, now with the kind of technology, kind of digital adoption platforms we have, employee actually can get an AI driven digital coaches kind of guidance where they'll only get what they are looking for. So I'm not saying that employee one, two, three, four till employee 100, everybody is going to go through the similar kind of experience in terms of training or in terms of adaptability strategy. But I'm saying now it will be so much hyper personalized. We are not there, but we're going to reach there eventually that it's going to be so hyper personalized that it will only provide you the information and knowledge which you are looking for and which will enable you to have a positive impact on your day-to-day work. So this is a very big shift, and this is being possible because of the AI. For example, I'll give you one more example. Like, all these digital adoption platforms, they all are now powered by AI. and they can actually detect user struggles and proactively suggest the next step. So, for example, I am working on, suppose I am from the finance side of the business, and I work in a finance department, and there are so many reports, so many different kind of systems and workflows I have to go through. Now, AI-driven digital adoption platforms, they can actually detect that what are my struggles, where am I struggling? Is there a particular report or a particular time, or is there a particular process where I'm struggling? And then the AI can suggest me something which will help me improve my work productivity on those particular and focused area only. What happens with these kind of efforts being put into on the system with AI, that the role of change manager actually is going to shift from being a trainer to more like an experienced designer. So you are not just designing a training, but you are designing a overall experience to your employees. And culturally, what is going to happen is organization are going to move towards continuous learning process. So it's not like you're doing training in a silo, but it's going to be more continuous learning and very much experimentational. So where employees will be encouraged to, hey, co-create something with AI rather than resisting to the AI and having the kind of experience you are looking for. So it's going to be more employee centric, not the subject matter centric. It's going to be more experimental, and it's going to be a continuous learning framework strategies around the change management, which we're going to see in coming future. It's already been happening in larger transformation, but it's going to go down to each and every kind of aspects when we talk about any kind of change management going forward.
Definitely a very insightful perspective, Ankur. And I think what really stands out is, I mean, AI is just about implementing new tools. It's also reshaping the way we are learning, adapting, and collaborating with technology. And I totally agree with your point that whenever we are trying to adopt any new technology, I think we tend to forget the human side of the technology.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
I think with generative AI and the different forms of AI coming into picture, I think it's important that organizations balance the human side of adoption with intelligent and data-driven approaches in terms of helping the entire organization be aligned with the new expectations we have while adopting any new technology. Now, moving ahead, of course, when we spoke about change management or how we need to integrate these technologies, the gap between leading Gen AI adopters and laggards is growing. Now,
Mhm.
Deloitte's second quarter 2024 State of Generative AI in the Enterprise Survey found that 73% of surveyed organizations reporting high levels of expertise were adopting the tool fast or very fast, while only 40% of organizations reporting some level of expertise were needed.
Mhm.
Now, adopting generative AI is a strategic endeavor that goes beyond just technical preparations, which you made it clear in your last response. But I think it also involves aligning AI initiatives with overarching business objectives through a very clear, concise, and a step by step strategy. So,
Mhm.
in your experience, what are some of the biggest barriers enterprises face when integrating AI into their existing systems and workflows, and how do you think leaders can overcome them?
Okay, yeah, that's great actually. And this is where the industry is struggling right now. And this is where actually a lot of work has been happening, because when you see, just think about a very large enterprise which has thousands of employees, and they generate billions of data rows every single day. They are very data heavy. They are very system heavy. They might be in a legacy system, or they might just be moving to a cloud system. Now, doing a bigger change in terms of adapting a new way of working becomes very difficult for these kind of organizations. First thing is, how are you going to integrate your legacy system with the AI powered platforms? Because if you see many of these large enterprise, they are on decades old platforms that were not even built for AI, because there was no concept of AI, and people were not like future foresighted to say, hey, I want to build something for the future. They were building something which was very relevant, very impactful and effective on that particular time. So because of that, we face a challenge where we go and see that the legacy systems are so prominent, and they are not built for AI. So we are struggling right now that how we're gonna correlate, how we're gonna integrate the AI technologies with the legacy system. The most impactful, or the easiest, not easiest, but the easier way of doing it is getting into API first strategies. You're creating different APIs, phased wise modernizing your system, which is going to take some time, but eventually we will be able to take the larger enterprise to a place where they're going to be completely AI driven, like or going to be on the platform which is completely AI driven. Second thing, which is very, very important, is the data quality. To AI, for AI to run impactful or effective, we need a lot of data. And when we talk about enterprises, they need their own data to run with the AI to give them the kind of results they are looking for. The quality of the data becomes a problem, as well as the governance. So, because the way you see is AI is artificially intelligence, right? So it is as good as the data you are feeding into that. So if you are not feeding the right data, you're not feeding the clean data into your AI systems, you're not going to get the kind of impact or kind of insights you are looking for. So if you go and talk to the leaders in the industry right now, they are investing heavily into things like data cleaning and the governance framework and the ethical data sourcing. Those kind of stuff you'll see a lot. And why? Because those things have been missing, and those things are like the core center of the AI technology right now. One more challenge I see is the trust factor from the employees. Again, the human side. If you don't trust the new technology, you will not be adopting it. And why it has been happening? Because we don't have a lot of AI governance framework as such in place. In fact, I was just checking some reports with Gartner a few weeks back, and they are predicting that it is governance is becoming so important that by next 1.5 year, you will see at least 50% of the enterprise will have some kind of AI governance framework in place. But till the time it's not happening, you will see a lot of skepticism from the employees. You will not see that employees are satisfied and they see the transparency. So leaders are working again on the human side. They are working on a lot of communication. They are working to involve more employees into the kind of AI initiatives they are taking and the kind of pilot programs they want to run before they go complete AI. So trust, again, big issues. One more issue I would want to talk about here is the scalability. Now, what has been happening that you must have seen in last 2, 3 years, a lot of pilot programs are happening. Even the big enterprise or the small enterprises, they all are talking about let's do a pilot program, let's do a pilot program, let's run this new kind of technology or new kind of AI driven platform for as a pilot to a certain population of my organization, and let's see how it reacts to our system, and then we're going to talk about how we can scale it. Now, this is the problem that a lot of those AI pilot projects, which are often successful in an isolation, they actually fail when it comes to scale. So again, we talk about change management, executive sponsorship, we talk about stakeholders, because you are working, suppose you start a new pilot and you run with your technical team only, and technical team comes back and say, hey, it's a great success, and then you try to scale it enterprise wide and it fails miserably just because you are not taking care of the change management and you are not working towards how you gonna make sure that the adoption of the new strategy or the new technology is being done properly. So yes, these are some of the issues I see. So you talk about the legacy system, we talk about the data quality, and then these are more technical. And then from the human side, the trust and adoption and the scalability, which is actually impacting, or I would say rather, they are the barriers for enterprise to go all out with AI
Yeah.
and make something build out of it.
Definitely. And I think with that response, it reminds me that successful AI integration is less of a one-time implementation, but more of a journey, one that
Exactly.
requires, alignment between your teams, leadership, as well as technology. So, having said that, I think despite the challenges, I believe technological advances make today's business world optimistic. And generative AI emerges as a crucial investment for companies looking to secure their future and gain a competitive edge. But beyond mere recovery, this optimism is about harnessing digital transformation's potential through generative,
Mhm.
which calls for a strategic adoption and thoughtful implementation to fully realize its extensive benefits. Last question for you, Ankur, that from a leadership standpoint, what mindset shifts do you think are required on the CEOs and CIOs front to truly harness the power of AI in their digital transformation strategies?
Very good question. And when we talk about any kind of modernization, any kind of shift, the mindset comes from top to bottom because people sitting upstairs, they are the one who are actually trying to create a strategy and foreseeing the kind of future they want for the overall enterprise, seeing what kind of changes are being done in the industry. So having said that, when I see the way things are happening, there are few things which actually we need to do as leadership. First is there need to be a shift from technology first to people first mindset. When you talk about people and not technology, you will see a greater adoption. And if you see AI, it is not an IT initiative, or rather, I would say it is not just an IT initiative, but it's an organizational transformation. And when we talk about organizational transformation, we need to see that how the mindset is going to shift. And when we are talking about that, there are so many things we need to talk about. The leaders should focusing not to control, but actually empower the employees. Like I'll give you an example. We, as employees of SAP, get exposed to so many different technologies, AI-based technology. Now, some are driven by SAPs, some are being driven by some other companies, but we are not getting control, but we are getting empowered by getting the right kind of exposure with different AI tools. So trusting the employees that they will experiment and have a better understanding of the AI tools is very important. Secondly, we talk a lot about efficiency, but with AI, we have to also see the creative side of it. So when you see people are seeing AI as more like a cost saver, but we also need to see it as like an enabler for new business models. So when you get into more creativity, you start thinking differently in terms of, hey, what all we can do, how we can leverage this new AI tool which we have just procured or purchased or started using to create a better business model for ourselves. So we are talking about efficiency, but at the same time, we are trying to have that creativity amongst the employees so that we can generate more ideas to have a better uses of AI. So when we talk about fear to risk to calculate innovation, so instead of waiting for the perfect clarity, we always talk about, hey, let's have a very perfect plan. But leadership needs to get into a different kind of adoption model. You test something, you learn, you scale, you might have some kind of setbacks, but you fix it and scale again. So rather than going big, you can still leadership still can go have a smallest test something and then learn from it, and then eventually when you have a better understanding of the new technology, you scale it. When I see all these things and the kind and it always comes back to the human side of the business because you will see that advancement is so quick. I know you're very close to monitor what's happening in the industry, what kind of new technology is coming. You will see every single day there are different kind of tools driven by AI is coming up. You always get to see something new happening. Now, if your AI literacy, and I'm talking about the leadership, if your is AI strategy is not in place, you will not be able to have a successful AI strategy within the enterprise. So again, pushing back to the model of continuous learning is very, very important. So in a gist, I would say the people first mindset instead of technology first mindset, empowering your workforce rather than controlling them, and letting them have a creative approach towards the AI tool will actually help leadership to frame the kind of future digital enterprise setup or a landscape they are looking to build for their enterprise.
Definitely. As we reflect on our toward embracing generative AI, it's clear that this journey is reshaping our approach to digital transformation. We have moved from viewing generative AI as a potential challenge to recognizing it as a powerful force for enhancement and growth. And this shift also underscores the importance of modernization as a foundation for harnessing its full capabilities. Well, thank you so
Right.
much, Ankur, for taking out the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that generative AI is not just another tool in the digital transformation toolbox. It's a game changer for adoption, change management, and enterprise productivity. So, thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, this is for our listeners. That's it for today's episode of Analytics Inside podcast. And I will see you next time as we continue to explore the technologies shaping the future of work. I am Priya Dialani, your host. You can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.